All right, guys, here we go. Episode 2 of Q&A. I'm just going to jump right into it. Kevin Queen asks about White Lightning brand of strobes. He wants my opinion on watt-second power outside versus indoors and what I think would be appropriate. And he had some questions about, do I think it's necessary to have a separate battery pack for each of his lights? So, number one, I have absolutely zero experience, Kevin, with White Lightning. All I know is that Paul Buff makes it. He makes the Alien Bee lights. Once upon a time, I used Alien Bee lights when I was first starting. They were great, indispensable lights for me to learn photography on. And I still use them today in my photo booth. So, yeah, I think, if you want the White Lightning, they're supposed to be, I think, a step above the Alien Bee light. Go for it. I don't think it'd be a waste of time or money, and if it has the features and functions and benefits that you're looking for, go for it. In terms of what I think or what I would recommend for power outdoors versus the inside, that's a tough question. I think every photographer has their own perspective on that. I think most of us would probably agree that there isn't any such thing as too much power when you're working outside. But with that being said, I use the Elinchrom Quadra system. That's a 400 watt second pack. I have 2 of those, and I've used it for the last 6 years on, I would say, probably 95% of all my shoots, and it's been great. And one way or another, I make it work. And if I have, a big modifier on the Quadra system and I'm outside and, 400 watt seconds isn't enough, then I'll put on a different modifier that's maybe more efficient, and I'll get it in closer, or, whatever the case is. I've yet to be in a situation where I haven't been able to make an awesome result in any daylight conditions where 400 watt seconds wasn't enough. I can absolutely overpower midday sun at f16 in my camera with 400 watt seconds.
Down a little bit. That's it. Hold it there. Hold it.
It's just a matter of getting it in close enough, picking the right compositions, and just compromising with your environment. And I think that the more you progress as a photographer, the more you're going to realize that you don't really need more power to get awesome results. You start thinking about things from a different perspective of, okay, I know I have 400 watt seconds. I know what that kind of renders in terms of, power output and physical distance to my subjects. And so now you can start thinking about that more globally in terms of your composition, the setups that you want to do with clients, and that kind of thing. And once you get to that level, then you can really take advantage of having a smaller, lightweight system like what the Quadra system offers, and just get the most out of it. Now, there are times where, yes, 400 watts is just not enough. So for those occasions, I have the bigger brother to that. I have the Speed AS Ranger pack. That's an 1100 watt second pack. We are using the Elinchrom Ranger. That's the Ranger RX AS pack. This is a bit overkill for what I'm doing today, but when I do go out on location for some of these larger commercial projects, it's nice just to have the power and fast recycle time of that.
Hold it there.
That thing is just massively powerful. It's amazing. I can do anything I want with it out in the field, and for that reason, that's why I own it. The problem with it, though, is that it's 17 pounds. And nor myself or my assistants like lugging that thing around on any shoot for any reason. So if we can leave that at home, we will. But that does have a place on some of the commercial photo shoots or some of the shoots where we just know we're going to be pushing the power range to the max for a majority of the shots. That will come out in the field. So it's kind of the right tool for the right job kind of thing as well. I would not recommend that at all for someone, especially starting out, and I would not recommend that even for someone that's an active pro that goes to a lot of shoots and does a lot of volume. I think a smaller system with a little bit of a compromise in terms of power is a much smarter way to go. Shooting indoors, once again, I use the Quadra system at minimum power. I think it's 8.2 watt seconds, and that's generally great. I can shoot and mix that with ambient, and it's usually not ever a problem. On occasion, 8.2 watt seconds is too bright if I'm trying to expose, say, I don't know, maybe like a nighttime skyline shot with a client in the foreground. Maybe I'll set the camera to say, I don't know, ISO 12,800. Maybe I'm at 60 parts of a second, and maybe I'm shooting at f2. And let's say that renders like a perfect shot of like the background where it's all lit beautifully. And then I need to match that with my studio light, right, for the client. So there are times where 8.2 watts at minimum power, it is too bright. And I may not want to just take the light and back it off, because then it's going to spill light everywhere on the ground and whatever. So if I'm doing a full-length shot, I don't want to have highlights from my flash spilling on the ground. So I like to keep the light in nice and close, nice and tight, really get a real specific composition, keep the light right where I want it to shape the clients and to just have it all come together. And sometimes it's too powerful at that minimum setting. So all you do is just throw in some neutral density gel. I'll put a link below to for a B&H. All you do is cut it out. You can put it right over your flash tube just like you would CTO gel or anything else. In fact, sometimes I'll make a sandwich with the ND gel and the CTO gel, and I'll put that together with Velcro, and then I'll put it right inside my softbox. And then that way it's just not too bright, and I can very precisely control what the power output is going to be in those really dim situations. Separate battery pack on every strobe? Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is the best way to go. I just don't have time to be fumbling around with, one pack. Although they'll support two different heads, I've never used any of my packs that way, to be honest. I just don't. I have two packs. I got a main light, and then I have a separation light. And I move those around, based on how I want the light to impact my subject, and then I control the exposure values of those lights right from the camera position. For me on my shoots, things have to move really quickly, right? Some of my clients have zero patience, so the longer I take to get something adjusted, the more I'm going to compromise to shoot, the more it's going to bog down just that whole workflow out in the field of working. So the last thing I'm going to comment on, I received an amazing comment from somebody on the last video that I posted on how they've watched all my videos and were very inspired, and it gave them the confidence to go out there and to start seeking jobs that prior they were a little nervous about or didn't feel that they were ready for, and then they credited me to giving them confidence to be able to go and do some of that stuff. I appreciate that like you would not believe. That's really the core reason why I even have this channel. So that is amazing, absolutely amazing. And then it was funny, this same person came back and actually commented, I think it was 1 or 2 days later, and said that they went to do an event, and then within the first 5 minutes they realized, oh my God, there's a lot going on, and I think they probably felt overwhelmed, and they saw some of the mistakes that they were making, right? And that really, and then I, of course, laugh because I've been there and I understand what that's all about. But this is also another point that I want to make. So a while back, I'm sure you've probably seen it, I made a video entitled Client Expectations. I'll put a link below to that video. The biggest thing that you want to remember, if you start navigating yourself into paid assignments that you haven't done before, the first thing you got to do is you have to make absolutely sure that you are managing and controlling client expectations right out of the gate. So the first thing you need to be doing before you go and do any of that paid work is you need to be absolutely, positively, beyond any shadow of a doubt, crystal clear on what it is in your work, in your portfolio that you've already done that this paying client wants to hire you for. Because if you don't, and they just hire you thinking that they saw some other photography that you did and you're going to be good, and then you agree to it, you take the money, and you show up and you shoot something that you know inside that you're maybe not really ready for, this is where you can actually do more damage than good, right? This is where you might disappoint the client, you might start creating a negative reputation for yourself, and it doesn't take long. And in this day and age with social media the way it is, man, if you screw up a photo shoot, or especially an event where there's a lot of people there, or God forbid, if it's a wedding or something like that that can't be redone and has high importance, that stuff spreads like wildfire and you're done, right? And rightfully so, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. A lot of people will go and bite off like a wedding, for instance, when they have no business shooting it. They have no experience. And someone just said, hey, can you shoot the wedding? Because maybe they had amazing fashion photography. And then they show up realizing, hey, actually, I don't really understand the workings of a wedding or when things are going to happen and where I need to be. They don't have that, working experience. And that's really, really, really important. So what you do, though, to gain traction is if you want to do events or whatever type of photography it is that you're trying to go after, when you do get people that are willing to hire you or give you the opportunity, just be very honest and clear with them. Say, listen, I've only shot one wedding, or I've only assisted other photographers in these weddings, and here's some of the pictures that I've been able to take. This is where I'm at right now. This is what I think that I can do, but I would like for you to kind of show me what your expectation is of me. Make sure that you're clear with that, because if you're not, you're going to regret it, and you're going to be you are absolutely going to let somebody down. And the reality is they may not even ever tell you. You may just deliver the images thinking that you did a good job, and they may just take it and just not say anything. And as a general rule of thumb, if you have a paying client, especially for any type of an event or a wedding or things like that, and you deliver the images and they don't say something like, thank you so much, you did an amazing job, or give you any kind of feedback, you can pretty much take that as they didn't like it and they weren't happy. Because it's uncomfortable for some people to go back and say that they weren't happy, unless they were really irate about it, right? But for some people, they're just too proud, or they may not actually tell you the truth and say, hey, you know what? Actually, we were a little disappointed, right? So treat that silence as them telling you that. That's something to keep in the back of your mind. So I'm not trying to deter anybody from stepping outside your bounds. That is a good thing. You just want to proceed with caution, and just all I ask is that you make sure that you're on the same page with your client. Let me give you an example with me to kind of put this in perspective, right? Whenever I have a client sit-down meeting for a new wedding, the first thing that I generally ask them is, so, tell me a little bit about what it is that you saw on my site or blog or whatever that kind of inspired you to want to contact me about your wedding, right? It's an open-ended conversation, and it gets them to talk to me about what it is that they saw about my style in my website that they really liked. And they might say something like, oh, well, we saw Julie and Joe's wedding that you did at the Westin Colonnade, and it was amazing, and we really loved the detail shots or the stylized shots that you did of the bride or whatever it is. So right away, when they say that to me, I know what their expectation is, because I can clearly place what they're saying versus what I've already done. And so now I can kind of tailor the rest of the conversation based around that. And maybe in that example, which it was true, Julie and Joe, she had, I think it was 8 bridesmaids, and I had this one amazing picture of them all kind of grouped together for this kind of Vanity Fair and inspired picture that I did. That shot required all 8 girls to be like ready with hair and makeup super early in the morning, right? And that had to be planned in advance. But if I just didn't communicate any of that with this now new client, she may just think that we can just quickly bang that thing out in like 2 seconds, which isn't the case at all. And if I don't ask her to tell me what it is that she saw about my site and blog that she really loved, she may be left thinking that I'm going to create that same picture for her on her wedding day, when in fact it would be impossible unless she knew in advance how to plan for it. So this is another example of what I'm talking about with managing client expectations. You have to uncover what they're thinking about and how they envision you delivering the results in advance, so that you have the opposition and you can go and you can control how things are going to go from there. So a little bit of rambling. Hopefully you guys got the point of what I was trying to say. Until next time. Thanks so much, guys. Separate pack